I have got questions on how I shot the cinematic rune footage in my latest rune review. Based on that footage, I will break it down into 10 advice, 2 cheats and 2 don'ts. Shooting cinematic footage doesn't need to be that complicated, but then again it won't happen accidentally. 10 advice can sound a bit too much to incorporate at once, but the good thing is that you don't need to incorporate all of them at once. Each one of them will make your rune footage a little bit more cinematic, and some of them are easier than others, and some of them are edits in post. So let's start with the 10 advice that you should do. My first advice is shoot to edit. Before you shoot, think about how you want to edit your footage. Don't just cut a sequence of random drone footage. Think storytelling or visual storytelling, what you want to say with your footage. As an example, my intro that's from a hand launching tutorial, it's definitely shot to edit. I wanted to give a fun and cool looking interpretation of hand launching that I just casually threw my drone up in the air. It consists of 2 clips, one of me pretending to throw the drone and one shot from above using the drone. I had the editing idea long before I shot the 2 clips. In the editing, I used some speed ramping to accentuate the effect. I knew that I wanted to use the speed ramping in the editing, so I shot in slow motion already at the location. Cinematic drone footage is often very smooth, and the easiest way to achieve this is to use only one stick at a time. If you are a bit more advanced drone pilot, you can use 2 sticks at a time, but the important idea here is to have one consistent motion. I shoot in these cinema-like which have more information in each frame, but it requires color grading. It looks somewhat flat right out of the camera. You can apply pre-made LUTs or do this manually. You can be as advanced as you want to, but for beginners, a quick way to do this is to just crank up the saturation to max and then adjust the exposure for better contrast. Keep an eye on the video scope so you don't blow out the lightest or the darkest parts. As in all photography, the light makes the photo. I shoot a lot at sunrise and sunset because of the light. As in my example with the drone crash, I wanted to shoot the bridge in sunset even though it was windy. Shooting on a cloudy, dull day is something different. You can also look for reflections in glass, water or other surfaces. I would say that this is a better and more interesting angle than this. Adding music will trigger more intense feelings and make the footage more cinematic. You can emphasize the experience for the audience. Do you want your footage to be peaceful or energetic, powerful and dramatic? This video is not sponsored, but I get all my music from Epidemic sound. I have a link down in the description, and if you use it, both you and me will get 30 days free. Epidemic sound has tons of cinematic music that I use all the time. By adding sound, you can really make the footage feel more natural. In my review, I added car sounds for the cars and birds for the forest. You can of course add the church bells or anything you want. It will create an atmosphere that will enhance your visual footage. Just like the music, I use sounds from Epidemic sounds, but there are also a lot of built-in sounds in Final Cut Pro, or I guess in the editing program that you are using if you use something different. Pay attention to the composition and create harmony in your footage by using leading lines, symmetry or guides like the rule of thirds. You can use overlays in your remote control to make this easier. I never shoot less than 10 seconds continuously. I of course cut it down in editing many times, but on location I try to shoot for that long time. As in the first advice of shoot to edit, if you shoot a rock video and you know how you want it, you can probably use only short sequences, but as a rule of thumb, I really recommend you to shoot long sequences and then edit them down. Many times your footage will look more cinematic when you slow it down. It can be that you shoot twice the frame rate or more, so you will get actual slow motion. But you can also slow it down only from 30 to 25 or 24 frames to get a slightly slower, more dreamy feeling. I also recommend to fly your drone slowly, and you can do this by using the cinematic mode or creating your own throttle curves to get it even smoother. This is maybe for a bit more advanced users, but it basically means that your shutter speed is double your frame rate. So if you shoot at 30 frames per second, you want to use a shutter speed of 60. It will give a natural looking motion blur, because if you use a too fast shutter, each frame will freeze and you will get a sequence of freezed frames, and basically the frames, each frame will not transition very well into the next frame, so it will look less cinematic. In reality, it can be difficult to achieve exactly double your frame rate, but many times it's good enough to just slow down the shutter, so you can use an ND filter and use automatic exposure mode. Those next two tips are what I call the cheats. They are simple effects that you can use in your post-editing and apply it on footage that you have already shot. So the first cheat is to add cinematic light effects in post. You can add lens flares. Anamorphic lens flares in particular will give a cinematic look because we recognize them from the movies. Let me know in the comments if you want to know more about anamorphic lenses, how they work and why they are creating this very characteristic lens flare. You can also add light leaks that gives a more dreamy analog film cinematic look, because we recognize them from back in the days when movies were shot on film. This one is controversial. A lot of people don't like blackbars because blackbars don't utilize the full resolution of your camera. And that is true. But I would argue that you want to practice what you want to be good at. So if you want to get used to work in a more cinematic format and you want to be able to crop the scene in that way, you should practice that, because what you practice you will be good at. The cinematic footage are generally wider than 16:9 and they are more pleasing to the eye because we normally look from side to side. The cinematic formats are wider and more pleasing to the eye because the eyes are more used to watch things in a horizontal plane. So what about the loss in resolution? Guess what? If you are watching a cinematic movie on your TV, you will actually get blackbars on your TV and your TV will not utilize its full resolution. So there is no real loss there, I would say. Let me know in the comments what you think about blackbars. There are actually things that you don't actively have to do, but you can simply avoid them to get more cinematic footage. Avoid micro adjustments. They can really ruin a beautiful view and they will give those amateur vibes to your footage. It can be a bit stressful for the eyes and it will show that you haven't been thinking through the scene that you want to shoot, so you are just sending your drone up in the air and you are filming stuff from different angles. Another thing to avoid is crappy graphics. Just don't use it. Many times it's better to just use plain text, or maybe don't use anything at all. But crappy graphics will really ruin your footage. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions regarding this. I do my best to answer all questions. And subscribe if you want more videos like this. It really helps me grow my channel. Thanks for watching.